I mean, it is the same for every show. You know what it's the magic. It's that thing where they can talk and they can tell a great story, and they just, they get the sparkle.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure all of you know, but I joined Top Chef season 15. You've been on for much longer than I have, though.
Yes, I started on season 12. I was actually on, I was like the last season of the original way of casting show, which was going to places and doing open call and like looking at like Zagat guides and seeing what restaurants were good and like walking in and trying to recruit chefs.
I didn't realize they did open calls. That's
old.
I think we did our first season, didn't we?
We had schedules, I think.
And then we had a scheduled day and then a day of open calls.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, we did.
It's been
Really? I thought because I remember it
15
being
and 16.
15 and 16, we did meet and greets. So we would do a scheduled day but everyone was scheduled.
It could be possible that I'm wrong. It's rare, but it happens.
That was the big thing. It was because it was such a relief for me not to be like, have all the awkward sort of like folks show up in their chef. That's where I found Dawn Burrell. She had driven from Houston to Dallas. She walked in at the table and I was like, oh my God. A, she was gorgeous. And B, she's a chef.
I think the good thing that Top Chef did and why it's been on for so long is Top Chef, in my opinion, has changed with the culinary scene and what's happening in the culinary world and what's happening in restaurants. So we took what was changing within a kitchen and then applied that to the way that we were casting, the way we were filming, the way we were editing, all of that kind of stuff. And that, to me, is how and why Top Chef has been on for so long.
I think coming in season 19, it was like you guys had done that incredible job with COVID.
Oh.
You did it completely remotely and you found these amazing people for season 18. And then it was like, here we are. We're not traveling. We're doing our own research in restaurants and things, but like, it's all our research, our outreach, and everything's Zoom.
Yeah.
So it changed so much.
I mean, it was nice going on the road. It was nice.
Eating
Traveling.
at all those restaurants was really nice.
And then having to do like a cleanse afterwards because we just ate so much food. I will say it was nice because we focused mainly on the bigger metropolitan areas and then kind of try to get people to come from the surrounding areas. But I do feel like this new way of casting where when we suddenly had to go remote, we are getting people representing from like so many more states, which has been really, really, really awesome and exciting.
I have like a thing. I was like, I'm going to get someone from Athens, Georgia. And we could actually do that. That's what was so cool. I mean, it's been really fun to sort of, I remember the transition from when we did open calls, it was the teams would only do 4 cities and we would be there for 5 days. So the ask for the chefs was a lot bigger. So we'd be like, if I was in Chicago for 5 days, I'm asking people to come in from St. Louis or Milwaukee. And then when we started doing what we did on 15 and 16, which was the more truncated version of things where we each got to go to 4 cities, I was like, oh, wow, we get to meet more people. And then by the time we went fully remote, I'm like, this is awesome. This is just the world just opened up.
It just opened up.
And we all know that chefs don't have time. So now they were able to be like, hey, you can just hop on a Zoom, like even if you're in your office.
Yeah, it gave an opportunity to so many more people because it made it so much easier for them. They didn't have to travel anywhere and you find them and then you meet them the next day on Zoom, which is great.
Which is so exciting.
Yeah, it's
And
great.
there are some chefs I'd wanted to meet for years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, there they are.
Yeah.
It is pretty magical.
Such a food fan my entire life since I was a kid. I grew up in the Midwest, so, outside Detroit. So my dad was really into steakhouses. And he would take us and we would have these amazing meats. And then eventually we got to have amazing wine with it. And he was like, this is what it feels like to have a wine pairing. And I was like, what? It is sick. So I loved it so much. Yeah. And then when I eventually, lived in New York and got a chance to work on another food show and just started meeting chefs and talking to them about different cuisines and like learning so much about regional cuisines around the US, about chefs and their background, like for them, what it meant for them to be cooking, whether it was their like life's dream, and everyone's got that like sitting on the, chair with their grandma thing, or not at all. They just like were a dishwasher in high school and then they fell in love with the kitchen.
I feel like it's clear we're all foodies, definitely. I feel like anytime one of us is like, let's get dinner. Yes, absolutely. But I feel like my appreciation for admiring the craft of food was definitely a shift when I started casting on this. like, yes, I appreciated food, but I grew up with, you know, parents that love to cook, which was amazing. But to be honest, didn't catch that cooking bug. I still don't have it. I could follow a recipe, but I still don't have it.
Yeah.
So I appreciated food. I appreciated flavors. But I feel like when I started working on Top Chef, I remember the most intimidating factor is like learning the lingo. Like, what is all these French terms, techniques, like all that stuff was so intimidating. And there was definitely, there's always a starting point in that world of casting Top Chef where you're like, and I remember we talked about when you joined the family, it was like, okay, there will come a time where you understand what the chefs are talking about when they start throwing all these terms or techniques, or listening to what people are saying when you're interviewing them and engaging whether or not, you know, that's the level that we're, you know, looking for. But I do struggle though to this day where like when I go out to a fancy restaurant, I'm like, yes, excited to try the food and would love, you know, drool over a plate of pasta. But sometimes it does feel like work constantly, especially for me because I'm, you know, I usually kind of head up the LA zone, and it's sometimes hard to disconnect and sit there with my friends and just be like, yeah, I'm just enjoying this like fancy dinner and not think like, oh my God, okay, do I need to like talk to the chef, you know? Or I'm like under the table, like adding him on my Instagram, be like, okay, this is someone I need to follow up with, which is great, but it's hard to definitely shut it off at times. I wonder, do you guys struggle that, or do you?
I think because I was the only person who was actually a chef.
Yeah.
So I came to it knowing the lingo, but I will say working on the show has made me a much better chef and a better food taster, because when you listen to people talk about food, I remember I once got a chef job without cooking a damn thing. He said, oh, I can just tell by the way you're talking about what you're going to make that you know what the heck you're doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I thought he was insane. And then you start working on this show, and then you realize when they're talking about it and the way they can describe something, and like an interview with a chef is like an ultimate high for me. I mean, like my interviews go way too long. We all know this
Yes, we
because
definitely know that.
it's so much fun. But it's made me a better chef, and it's also made my husband like way more of a foodie. We now have conversations about what we're eating in restaurants, and it's really fun. And he'll find some place and he'll be super excited. He's like, do you know about this person? And sometimes I'm like, no.
That's the small downside, right? My boyfriend's the same, where like now he'll be like, his birthday's coming up. He's like, you know, like a tasting menu, like Spirit, every night. I'm like, cool, yeah.
He's gonna be like, you know exactly where to go. Yeah, totally.
I don't know, maybe like minimum 3 stars, please.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. But for me, when it comes to food, I feel like a common question that I get asked, going back to your lingo, is that people are like, oh, you've worked on the show for so long, do you know how to cook? And it's like, I don't necessarily know how to cook, but I definitely understand it better than the average human, because I feel like I can talk about it much easier with a chef, just because like it becomes ingrained in you.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a house of picky eaters, so I was like a standout person, because my stepmom always told me like, just try a food, and it could be your new favorite food, you never know. So I was never afraid to try things when I was growing up, and I think that bled into like my adulthood, because like in high school I've always had a passion for the culinary arts. Like I wanted to be a pastry chef, and then I found out how early they have to wake up, and I was like, that's absolutely not what I'm doing. I like gave that dream up. Once I started working in the culinary shows, that was like, I was like, oh, this makes sense.
You definitely appreciate it more. Like I definitely will sit and eat and enjoy a meal and really just appreciate the work, because I know the amount of work that it takes to even something as simple as a pizza. Like I understand, you know, how much time it took to come up with this. And I do want to go back to, I love what you said about how it changed how you taste food. Oh my gosh. You understand,
you're sitting having and stuff, and then other times you're just at a normal restaurant and you're like, no, this isn't right.
And then I'm like, am I a bougie bitch? Oh my gosh, this is so salted. Like
going back to what you said about you're always on in your head. And so like, even if you're just at any restaurant, just out with your, you know, significant other or whatever, then you're just
Always thinking about it.
Oh yeah, no. I remember we were at dinner last week and we had this agnolotti that was like so perfect.
Yeah.
Rob and I were both like, this is insane. And like, I don't think before I started casting this show, and even though I had been a chef that I knew how to taste food and 10 years in hospitality, there's something about having so many conversations with so many chefs that you really think about texture and flavor. And it's like a different part of your brain has been turned on.
And you really pay attention to menus and like if it represents who the chef is, where they come from. Like I'm addicted to stories now around the food.
So much of it is so creative.
Yeah.
Like, I always say that, like, my favorite version of the arts is the culinary arts. Like, that is definitely, like, my favorite art form. And you can really see it with a lot of the people that we cast. They're on their menus. It's like they take the time to craft a perfect thing. And then they're giving you that perfect thing and it's in front of you. And you're like, oh my God, you put so much heart and soul in.
This makes you more curious too, like to see the menu. Like, oh, there's like Japanese influence. Oh, that's really interesting. Like I would want to hear like how they gained that interest and the flavors that they, are passionate about representing on that, paper. Yeah.
And really, and also like it's made me very keen on, I can tell if a chef has a point of view, right? And like, I know that like that is our big thing when we're casting. If somebody doesn't have a point of view, they're not ready.
Are you cooking your food or somebody else's food?
Exactly. It's like, but you can tell when you look at a menu and you eat the food that you're like, yes, they know who they are. And that is what is so much fun.
And that's also what brings the emotion. Like I get made fun of all the time. Just watch my face if I really like something.
Oh, have I cried over of joy? Absolutely.
Totally. Or if you know that like something about their culture that they're really represent, that will make you cry.
Yeah,
because you're like, it worked.
Yeah.
Or the typical thing of like a memory that your grandma made this dish and you can seriously feel her in the room because it tastes so similar.
And that's why we get crazy emotional when we watch the show. I know why this challenge was so important to them, or having us represented, or making that dish, and it was like their favorite dish. And
I feel like our emotional connection to our chefs, but B, like everyone who makes it on the show, but also just chefs in general, I now have this weird emotional connection to.
You understand and appreciate everything that they do and everything that they go through.
There have been so many chefs that over the years, I mean, again, I met Dawn on season 12.
Yeah.
Didn't make it on the show until, 18? Because all of a sudden, she knew who she was as a chef. So there's that, but there's also like, there is that thing when a chef can talk about their food, and I feel like that is so important. I mean, you've all met so many chefs who are like super passionate and they're excellent at what they do, but they can't articulate it. I mean, how many interviews have we sat through but they just can't do it. I mean, that I feel is like such a key part of it.
yeah, I think it's
huge.
It's so important for them to know why they do what they do, but also like what is their perspective on their cuisine and what they make. Because I feel like, our whole thing too is like we never ever want to set up anybody for failure on the show.
Never.
It's like winners only. Like we want to interview people where we're like, yes, that's a winner, that's a winner, that's a winner. And part of that is being able to find chefs that they know exactly the type of food that they make. They feel confident. We found, I think, season after season, it's like the chefs sometimes that, they get in their heads or whatever and they stop making their own foods, fail that challenge time and time again. Yeah. And every time we talk to chefs that have competed on it, they're like, oh my gosh, I wasn't cooking my food.
Yeah.
And then they failed that challenge. And I think that's what it is like when we're interviewing the chefs, that's what we're looking for is like, are they confident what they do when it comes to their cuisine? Why are they passionate about it? What is the story behind it? But yeah, I think it's so important.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that in such a huge way with Tristan this past season. I think they also have to be like ready to play. And Tristan showed up for the interview with hood music and fine dining on his t-shirt. And I was like, oh, he's ready to play, right? He's ready to go. So it's also having that playfulness because it is TV after all. So you want them to play with the other chefs. You want them to play with their food, literally. You want them to take risks. You want it to be good TV, but true to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also see, like, I always like to see too, like, because I feel like with a show like this, having gone on for so many seasons, we are looking for chefs who, what are they adding to the culinary scene? Because it is probably one of the most competitive fields out there. I mean, we see it, constantly. Restaurants come and go constantly. And even more so now, I feel like they're still trying to get up from COVID. There's only so many times that I can, see certain recipes where I'm like, yep, this is, classic, yep. Yep, but if I can get it at like 6 other restaurants, like I want to know like what's a different take on this, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I interviewed Melissa King on season 12, and she had been working at for Dominique Crenn, and she'd had all of this like Michelin star experience, but she was just leaving because she wanted to do her own thing. And I remember, aside from the fact that she made me laugh my ass off in that interview, she was hilarious, but she also she had like this, she's like, I'm coming back to LA and I want to do this thing. And I was like, oh, this is great, because she has this like freedom of spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing that makes Top Chef stand out from other culinary competitions is we truly go for talent first. Everything else kind of falls second. That, and I mean, we've all worked on other shows and all of that, but the way we cast this show and working as a team, it's very different than it is on any other show.
Yeah.
And it's very different when we're like pointed towards the talent and not having to focus on like, who's going to bring drama or who's going to bring, it's not like that at all. Those conversations never even happen because we focus so hard on the creativity, and the talent encapsulates everything. It's like their creativity, it's their menu planning, it's all, everything put into one. I think that generally makes us stand out from a lot of the other cooking shows.
And I think the personality just kind of naturally comes. And I mean, because we pick confident people, obviously. But then when they become best friends, like last season's all on a group text chain.
There's always a group text chain.
They're all doing collab dinners after, which is great because you want them to all have fun and
Like
eat.
all over the world. Like they go everywhere together.
Yeah, it becomes a family that they all like.
I feel that's probably one of the most rewarding things to watch is like,
For sure.
it's like, oh my gosh, our chefs are besties. They're doing a collab. Oh, I know.
Like Top Chef means a lot to a lot of people. And
They travel the world to go to everyone's restaurants. They go all over the country and all over the world for all these people. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's one of the things that's like most rewarding about casting the show is like watching restaurants thrive that maybe weren't thriving before the show, or maybe were, but like they double their profits or whatever, or even just having people that would that decide to go to Madison, Wisconsin. You know,
I was gonna say, yeah, like, or adding like new food cities. Like it's not like New York will always be there, LA will always be there, Atlanta, you know what I mean? But like, how excited were we when we were like, Detroit was coming up, you know? Like that was just amazing. So I think that too is like representing all these like, or highlighting all of these new food cities that nobody would ever, think about. Like, so.
Jag has such good food, by the way.
What amazing.
There's so many good restaurants there.
Yeah. That's so Houston and Dallas all of a sudden are like becoming like, and not just, being like the cow town, but like so much exciting food. It's just amazing.
yeah, it's all over the country. And I think a lot of these chefs that have incredible backgrounds, Michelin backgrounds, James Beard nominations, whatever, they end up moving from New York or San Francisco back to their hometown. They open these incredible restaurants, and like then we find them and we get to showcase them, and then their small hometown becomes a thing. It's so exciting.
Yeah, that's why you get someone from like, a small town in the Midwest because, they were working at a 3 Michelin star restaurant. They went home, found their point of view and their confidence and obviously managerial skills, ideally.
That's not the fun part.
Yeah, it's definitely not the fun part, but, important for Restaurant Wars.
I feel like part of the longevity of the show that has been really exciting and discovering new talent, and also while moving along with like the changing of the culinary world, is that we've expanded outside of just that kind of like the accolade thing, right? Like it's not just Michelin, not James Beard, because we understand that there's so many chefs that don't get that opportunity. And so I think what's been really exciting is, like just sliding into DMs, like, because I saw a picture of a food. Like that's the changing scene of casting, I feel like, especially for Culinary, is that the whole sliding into the DMs thing is becoming a thing.
Even if it was like season 12, where, again, Instagram was thing, but not really. We were trying to figure it out, but it was then, back then it was something that I still do, which is I figure out like, I love local news, and I love going through the deep dives and finding like the weird like the culture map Houston, and oh my
The number of times
works.
Yeah, the number of times I will like sit and watch like KTLA news and they bring a chef on and they're like talking about the food. I'm like, oh, who is this person? And I'll like literally look them up and you're like, oh my gosh, like they're kind of perfect for a top chef. And then I'd reach out to them. I listen to like, you know, the way they're talking about their food. Obviously they always, you know, bring their food and I'm like looking at their food, but also like the excitement too. And so, yeah. And also like, I mean, it is TV at the end. So automatically I'm like, oh, they're comfortable in front of the camera. So that's like the last thing I need to worry about is like they're doing the local news channel, you know? But yeah, I'm looking to hear about what their story is, the way they're talking about their food, how excited they are to talk about, you know, what they've created on this plate. And then, yeah, when I do the further research and see, you know, what their full journey has been like and the restaurant and stuff like that, I feel like that.
I always feel like seeing where they cooked because I think after this much time, we'll know what the competitive nature of the restaurants are. And even if someone isn't at 11 Madison Park now, if they survived X amount of time at certain restaurants, we know that they can hang.
They're there for a month, then you're like, oh, no, I can't find it.
No, but it's, you know, someone spent, you know, X amount of years, you know, under chefs who we know can be challenging. Then they're like, oh, they'll be fine.
And talking about competitive nature, that is a part of this. Like it is a competition. So if I'm interviewing a chef that like gets excited about competition, and of course there's the like trite stuff of like they played football in high school, but there is something to that because if they have a competitive nature, if they're like, I want to win, I want to like support my other chefs at the same time, but like I'm in it to win it, I get so excited.
Yeah, I think a good thing is that, I mean, we really lucked out because I feel like a lot of chefs are naturally competitive. So it's like we don't really have to push it too much. But another thing that leads to us getting a great cast is all of the Top Chef alum and their recommendations. And we talk to them every year because we trust them. They know exactly what it's like.
And they know everybody.
You're not going and we're like, where are you eating that you love? Do you have anyone that works in your restaurant that you love that you feel like could handle it? You know, and getting that also is like an unbelievable wave of resources.
100%. Yeah, and having Kristen as the host, they respect her so much. And they can't wait to talk to us a lot of the time just because they know that Kristen's going to be there.
And what is so fun, I think what sets the show apart too, is like I can't tell you the amount of chefs over the years who I've called and said, I've been approached by this show or that show, but when I said I'm from Top Chef, they were like, I'll talk to you. I said I would never talk to anybody but Top Chef, but you I will talk to. And then I'm sort of like, you're snobby enough to hang with me? Like,
how I get it.
It is nice to have those calls, where they're like, I said no to everybody else, but I've been waiting for this. Those are the ones that are going to make you cry for sure.
They're the ones that are going to get everything done for you in the amount of time you need to get it done. Ask a lot, but the chefs, but they all do it, and it's
Our application is hefty.
But it's for our reason, so we can and check all their references and do all of that and check the resumes and sample menus, and we put them through it, but it's because they need to be put through it.
And it's a sure sign to see how they're going to be in production too. Like it's a great first step.
The competition, once they're on set, it is not easy. You don't have to win Top Chef in order to benefit from Top Chef. So like everyone that goes on it, you have an opportunity to do great in it after,
That part too feels great because it's not just like, oh, you have to win.
Winning is great. I'm sure it's great.
Yeah, winning is great. Yeah.
Money's great.
Yeah. It's all great.
And they're the chefs, like that just made me think of like the representation that happens.
Oh yeah.
Like Sue being on the show.
Oh yeah.
He had these like young Korean kids that hadn't seen, a chef on Top Chef yet that looked like them. And they were all like sending him, little letters and stuff.
I love that.
Which I think is so awesome.
Yeah. Well, along the lines of representation, that's been so exciting that I feel like Top Chef has done so well with. We all go after chefs sometimes for years. And there's one special one I like to mention, Katiana Hong. Gosh, I started talking to her for like over the span of 5 years. And we all know that timing is everything on this. And so timing with her was like, she is such a hugely respected chef. I think she was like a first female CDC at one point in her life. But what was so exciting and why I was so persistent, because I was like, I want her, is that her story for me, her like journey as an individual was so perfectly translated on a plate. So she is Korean American, adopted by a Jewish family. And the fact that her food perfectly represents that is so exciting. And like that to me is what I mean by like when we want to find chefs that are adding something new and exciting and different to the culinary world. She is it. Like not only is she representing just women that was once a predominantly male dominant, world, but also Korean American, adopted from a Jewish parents, and her Korean matzo ball soup is like the most famous thing, and it's like known here in LA. And so I remember just being like, I mean, you heard it constantly. I'm like, I'm trying to get her every season. I'm surprised she never blocked me, but we're friends now.
Well, she made it on, so that's...
But she made it.
I mean, it is the same for every show. You know what it's the magic. It's that thing where they can talk and they can tell a great story, and they just, they get the sparkle.
That's exactly how I felt about Joe Sasto. When we went to Sena and I went to San Francisco, we got invited to Lazy Bear. As soon as Joe Sasto came out, we were immediately like, he should be on television.
Yeah.
And his food started coming out, and we're like, he should definitely be on Top Chef because his food was unbelievable. I think he was a sous chef. I don't even he wasn't the exec.
Yeah, no, he was sous chef. Which was crazy.
But Joe Sasto immediately felt like a star, and then interviewing him, when after you do a sit down interview with him, you're just like, yep, you are perfect for not only television, you're perfect for Top Chef. You have all the qualities. You know how to talk about it. You know how to do everything.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And
Checking all the boxes.
he checks all the boxes. Yeah. Sometimes it just clicks for people.
Yeah. I mean, it's a gold mine when you can find somebody, because, while we say we're talent first, we also don't want somebody that's going to freeze up and shut down in front of the cameras, because then it's like, and so they could be extraordinarily talented, but we also need to know that they feel okay being in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Because like I said, like we'd be doing them a disservice if we're just like, yeah, sure, just keep going, when we know that they're absolutely petrified with the cameras there.
But I think the good thing, sorry, if I could just say about all of you, is that you all give all of these chefs that chance too. Because if you feel like, oh, I'm not sure if they're going to freeze up on camera, I don't care. We're still going to sit down and let's just go through it and let's try to work at it and see what can happen. And, you give the opportunity to make sure so you could exhaust all of our avenues so we actually make sure we are finding the best people. And I feel like that's credit to a lot of you on the team.
That's such a good point, because you're also going to find the people that aren't like stars right away. So the audience gets to see them grow throughout the season, and those end up being the biggest stars. And they're just super relatable. Like Bailey ended up being super relatable to people. Like she was quirky and she had fun style, but she like went through struggles and people saw it, and she came out on the other side, and like I think people love that too, that they're not these like perfect chefs that
we had for a Portland season, we had Sarah Hallman, who was she was making her way through San Francisco, and she was known, but my gosh, she was so shy. She's just so sweet, and gosh, we talked to her for a couple of years, and for her it was just like, I'm just not ready. And we were like, okay, cool, no, we get it, timing is everything. And then finally she was like, well, I guess if it's also an opportunity to represent Portland, and she did so well, and now she does TikTok videos. And she has this, and she does this super like successful tin fish or fish company. I mean, you want to talk about growth, like it's so exciting to see.
I also love it when like someone changes your mind in an interview. You go into it and you're like, well, they're going to be right, and then halfway through the interview you're like, you are so right. Like, love this. Because it like keeps you on your toes, and it keeps you still like, oh, I didn't think that's what was going to happen, and then they flip the interview and I'm like, I'm all in.
Oh, well, 100%. I remember when I first interviewed Damar, he was very nervous. He was very polite.
Oh yeah.
And you do the thing, you poke, you prod, and then all of a sudden they start laughing, and then by the end of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're making your sous chefs like go and sharpen their knives. You can hear the chives. I love you.
Yeah. And I think hopefully if we're doing our jobs right, that's what happens too. Like halfway through the interview, they see we are a major cheerleader for them. We want them to succeed.
Yeah, I know.
Like then they loosen up. They're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, and on that note, I do feel like sometimes some of those chefs do come on with that energy, because I think because of the reputation of Top Chef being, these are some of the best on this competition, that they assume that we're like very like, let's see what you've got. And we're all like former theater kids. And like, I've had chefs tell me like, well, like Sena was just like the super bubbly, chatty, could talk your ear off, and at first I was like, I don't know, this seems like very, I don't know, like this is for me. And then she ended up
Well, but you get the best out of them is when you can start relating to somebody and you're like, you like Jurassic Park? I like Jurassic Park. And then you start talking about something that has nothing to do with anything for like 10 minutes.
Which is like half of the interviews.
I always feel like the greatest compliment you get as an interviewer is if at the end of it they say, this was so much more fun. I thought it was going to be. I was so nervous, and things feel so comfortable, and all of a sudden you're like, yes, I have done my job.
Yes. Or it felt like a therapy session. If that's like, that's like therapy, and I'm like, well, I'm glad you feel better.
Yeah. I wish I had the paycheck of a sometimes because I said, oh God, we need to stop now.
And then if they bring their pet to meet you, you're like, the cats and the dogs.
Well, on Zooms, when a cat walks through, you're like, well, now I have to talk about a cat for 10 minutes. Right. And then you're like, sorry, editors, we're going to talk about a cat. And we're just going to like sit there.
Please bring your cat to the camera.
Or my man.
I mean, when we are looking for people, I think we always try to focus on their food quality and their personality and all of that kind of stuff. So I think that we typically aim to, get the best of the best through those avenues. I think that's something that we've all done in the past is like, we do look at their resume. If somebody is bouncing around from place to place in under a month, it kind of sometimes tends
they're not stages.
They're not, and they're not stages or something like that, because staging at a place, sure, it's not going to be a long time that you're going to be doing it, which is exactly why we pay attention to a resume and exactly why we check references on all of the chefs. We do that for everyone, regardless if they make it on the show or not. I mean, I don't know what you guys see, but I feel like for me, that was like a constant thing in my head. It was like, you have to pay attention to all of that and what's going on the plate.
And also I feel like, especially like if they're a little bit younger too, if they're a younger chef or CDC, like we want to make sure that they're making their own food.
Yes.
Because, a lot of the positions are, following the executive chef's orders and you just cook what the executive chef tells you. So I feel like the number one question I always ask is like, are you creating items on the menu? And if so, what are they? Are they just starters, or are you actually like, creating entrees and stuff like that? Like that's always going to be like the number one thing that I check. That's what you have to do on Top Chef. You're not going to be able to lean on anybody else but yourself to create the menu.
Yeah. So if they're doing like their own pop-up on the weekend, I'm like, okay.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. Which is another thing that's been exciting to see that's definitely shifted since like Top Chef started, is like the world of pop-ups, supper clubs, private dinners. If it is private dinners, we're asking like, how many people are you serving? And are you a one-man show, or, do you have help? Because that shows me also in the competition level, oh, so when we throw those like challenges where you have to feed like 200 people, you can knock it out and keep up versus like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Because you're so used to feeding like a family of 4 or something.
Yeah, or there's the people who have like the 11-seat tasting restaurant, and they spend all day with their tweezers, and if they have never done like speed volume, that to me is always something that like you need to be a perfectionist, but you can be a little too tightly wound to be able to manage the show.
I mean, at the end of the day, you need to be creative to be on the show, but it's still a cooking competition, so you're going to be timed. So you need to be able to still put out dishes in the right amount of time, or plates will go out empty. And we see it season after season where it happens. It is, everyone's human, so it is what it is. But I feel like paying attention to getting things out quickly and knowing that people can do that and then large scale events, being able to do large scale events, it helps people for sure.
And for it to be like fun for them, it's not always fun, but if they like get excited about a knife challenge or something, you're like, okay, this person can handle this,
If somebody talks about like how stressed they get, that is also my rearing them aloud. This may not be the show for you.
Sometimes when somebody tries out multiple seasons, on the back end, we can look at it and say like, we love them, but like, let's give it another season and let's see how it works. Also, when like you all know, putting a show like this together is like putting a puzzle together. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We really pushed for Tristan, and it had a lot to do with everyone. He's probably been through a lot of people's hands, but as he ended up getting on the year that you interviewed him, because I think you're good luck. And they definitely like championed him, and he got on, and he was amazing. Look at he won.
I mean, I get the most excited when I have to like fight for someone, to be honest. When we kind of show execs or producers that they're special and just watch and they trust us, it's like the most amazing feeling ever.
Oh, absolutely. Especially the people who've been on years-long journeys. Having to say, it's like, I know you didn't like X, Y, or Z last time, but just trust me, they're ready. And it is like the most magical moment when you get yes. Or also, as we all know that I get super, super passionate, but it is, I think we all get like that. We are all such staunch advocates, the people that we get to interview who are, we root for everyone, but I do feel like even from my very first season on this, I've always felt that like I will go to the mat for people that I truly believe in.
Absolutely.
Going along the lines of like vouching for our people, but I feel like you said it was like a puzzle, right? Finding the final cast. And I feel like a lot of our fight isn't necessarily like they're talented enough. It's really like, every time we find a cast, cuisine itself is so diverse. And so we're always trying to make sure, just regionally as well, cuisine-wise, story-wise, we have like a nice variety, right? But I feel like chefs should understand, like, be persistent. You've been persistent with your culinary career this whole time. Be patient with us, but be persistent. Because for us, it's like, we will always, I tell them every time, if I do have to tell cast members, like, I'm so sad about this, but you didn't make it on this season. I always tell them, I know we all do, keep applying. Sometimes it's taken chefs years, and it's not a matter of talent. It's just we're fitting the puzzle together, and it just wasn't that season, and yeah, we've had chefs where it's taken years, and it's not about talent. It's just timing is time. I'll repeat this again. Timing is everything in so many aspects with Top Chef.
Absolutely.
But finding the cast and when you are cast on the show is part of that journey too. And I hope that the chefs understand, like, be patient with us, but be persistent.
They should all talk to Dan Jacobs.
It's the right time in the right moment, and it
in his home state.
I mean, it couldn't work out better.
Perfect season.
All interviewed him at some point.
He was patient with us and he was persistent. I mean, we'll always have all of these chefs back, hands down. Anytime that they want to reapply, we're always like, yes, we have your back. You want in on this? Great, awesome. We'll put you through.
I always love, it's always disappointing, like, if you get a text, it's like, or, whether you have to tell them or they've heard and you're like, I hear I didn't make it. And like the first thing I say, I'm like, please don't take this personally. It's a puzzle. I'm going to call you next time you do this. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yes, we're not joking. This is real.
Well, we never forget that they generally ask is, what did I do wrong? And it's like, you didn't do anything wrong. It's not about being right or wrong in this moment. It's about what makes sense and like timing. It is about the timing of it and how the puzzle fits together. And it's not that you did anything wrong. So please, please, please come back again the next season. Because it matters. It matters and it makes a difference.
Yeah. I don't even have kids, but I feel like this is what it's like to have kids. I'm like, it feels like,
I've said to the chefs who have been on the show that I've told them to their face, I'm like, I think of you all as my children. I don't have any, but you guys are my kids.
Yeah, and so many chefs that didn't wanted so badly to make it on season 18 and they end up being on season 21. They're like, I wouldn't have been ready on 18.
Yes.
Absolutely. You're glad that they didn't make it and then they ended up having to wait.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that feels great too. Of like, oh, it was the right fit.
Yeah. And they get ready too. They're like, I've been in the kitchen just chopping up onions, dice it out, breaking down pieces of chicken, sliding it. I'm down to 2 minutes. I was like, that's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, when I became the casting director of Top Chef, Samantha Hanks did it for a very long time. We all love Samantha Hanks. When she transitioned on and then I started doing it and being the casting director on this, it truly felt like a dream because I worked on a bunch of other culinary shows and Top Chef was always the one who was like, I want to work on that. I want to work on that. And then I started working on as a producer and, working your way up the ranks and then becoming the casting director on it. Truly feels unbelievable because the culinary world is so special to all of us and it feels special to all of us in different ways. And, I totally understand that. And to me, it makes me feel like I get to do something that like I love so much and be a part of. Like I get to be a part of it, you know? And it's just truly like, I don't know, an unbelievable experience so far. And they get nominated for accolades and stuff. That's kind of cool. The Artios Awards are coming up.
I feel like, after 10 years doing this, it is literally my favorite thing I do all year.
Absolutely. It's my favorite show I've ever worked on. And I've worked on a lot of shows, but this is definitely my favorite show I've ever worked on.
It's really special. Yeah.
Yeah.